Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going deep on a brand new McKinsey report all about superagency in the workplace.
Yeah.
It just dropped in January 2025, so it's hot off the presses stuff. And
Absolutely.
basically they're asking this huge question. Can businesses actually use AI to make their employees more creative and productive?
It's a big one. It really is a fascinating question. And you know what? This report,
Yeah.
it's suggesting that we are like on the edge of a massive shift. They actually compare it to like
Okay.
the steam engine back in the 19th century.
So you're saying we're not just talking like automating a couple tasks?
No. This is way bigger.
'Kay.
Think about it. The steam engine.
Right.
It changed factories, travel, like
Yeah.
the whole world.
The whole world.
And McKinsey's saying AI has that same power.
Oh, wow.
It totally transform how we work.
Hmm.
We could be talking about adding like $4.4 trillion
Trillion.
to global productivity.
Wow. So maybe I should hold off on that early retirement plan then.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit longer.
Okay, so if AI is such a game changer,
Yeah.
why isn't everyone already like seeing those amazing results?
Well, that's the thing. That's like the big paradox this report points out.
Okay.
Pretty much every company is investing in AI at least a little,
Uh-huh.
but only a tiny percentage,
Like how tiny?
like 1%,
Oh, no.
feel like they've figured out how to really use it well.
So it's like everyone's got the shiny new gadget, but
Yeah.
they haven't figured out how to use all the features?
That is a perfect analogy. And the report says the biggest roadblock isn't the tech itself.
Huh.
It's not even employees who are like resistant to change.
Really?
It's actually leadership. They're the ones lagging behind on AI strategy.
That is surprising. You'd think with all this money being invested,
Right.
companies would be leading the charge.
You would think so.
So,
But the data shows this disconnect.
okay.
92% of companies plan to increase their AI spending over the next 3 years.
Okay.
But most haven't figured out how to actually integrate it into their operations, their culture.
So there's this gap between like throwing money at the problem
Uh-huh.
and actually using AI strategically.
Exactly.
But what about the employees? Like, are they even on board with this whole AI revolution?
You might be surprised by this, but the report found that employees are actually more ready for AI
More?
than their bosses.
Really? So they're not worried about, like, robots stealing their jobs?
Some are, for sure.
Okay.
But overall, the data says employees are 3 times
3 times.
more likely to be using AI in their work already
Wow.
than their leaders and men realize, especially millennials.
Uh-huh.
A lot of them are managers now.
Right.
They're the ones who are the most comfortable with the technology.
That makes sense.
They're the natural champions for AI.
Yeah, they've grown up with tech changing all the time.
Right.
But it still feels like everything's moving so fast.
It is.
Like, remember when ChatGPT came out of nowhere?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it went from 0 to 300 million weekly users in like 2 years.
That's incredible.
That pace is putting pressure on companies.
For sure.
But employees have concerns too.
Like what? Aside from the whole, like...
Okay, yeah, aside from like the robot uprising.
Exactly.
Okay, so more like cybersecurity, data privacy,
Okay.
and whether the AI's information is even accurate.
Right.
These are big questions.
Yeah.
But you know what the report found?
What's that?
Employees actually trust their own companies to handle AI responsibly,
Okay.
more than they trust big tech companies or even the government.
Huh. So it's not just about the tech then.
No,
It's also about trust.
it is.
But if companies are behind, how do they earn that trust and like step up to this AI challenge?
It's about thinking bigger. It's not just about automating a bunch of tasks.
Okay.
It's about using AI to like tackle big problems and create whole new possibilities.
Okay, now you're talking. Give me some examples.
Okay, so imagine robots totally changing how manufacturing works.
Okay.
Making things more efficient and sustainable.
Wow.
Or predictive AI that helps us optimize renewable energy to fight climate change. We could even have AI-powered drug development that finds cures for diseases we thought were incurable.
This is starting to sound like science fiction.
But in a good way, right?
Exactly. It's like...
It is. It's the potential.
That's a bring
But
up.
to actually get there, companies need like a roadmap.
Okay.
And McKinsey calls this their rewired framework.
Rewriter.
6 elements for making it in this AI-powered world.
We don't have time to go through all 6 right now, but
Right.
what are the top things that companies and their employees really need to get?
I think 2 of the most important ones are adaptability
Okay.
and federated governance.
Okay, so adaptability first.
Yeah, so that means that AI is always changing. So
Yeah.
companies and people need to be learning and integrating new stuff all the time.
Got it.
shift. It's not like you set it and forget it.
Right. You got to keep up.
You do.
But what about this federated governance? What even is that?
So basically, it's a fancy way of saying that companies need to find a balance between having central control and giving teams the freedom to do cool stuff with AI.
So like not too much red tape, but also some guardrails.
Exactly. Manage the risk, but also let the creative solutions happen.
It sounds like this rewired framework is less about the specific technologies and more about building a culture that embraces AI, but does it thoughtfully.
I think that's a really good way to put it.
But what about the human side of all of this? Where do people fit in this AI-powered future?
That's the big question, and that's what we'll be exploring when we've come back for part 2 of this deep dive.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Before the break, we were talking about how AI has this potential to, like, totally reshape the workplace. We even compared it to the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, it's a big shift.
But I'm curious, what does this all mean for, like, regular people, you know?
Yeah.
What about those of us who aren't, like, coding robots or leading these huge tech companies?
That's a really good question. And actually, the report spends a lot of time talking about that.
Okay, good.
It digs into what this AI shift means for individual employees and their careers.
So what's, like, the main thing listeners should take away from this? Should we all be, like, running out to learn how to code?
Not necessarily. The report actually highlights that employees are generally pretty excited about AI.
Why?
They see it as a tool that can help them do their jobs better.
Right.
Not as like a threat.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Let's be real for a sec.
Okay.
AI is automating some tasks already. And that can be kind of scary.
It can.
So how do we stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah.
How do we make sure our skills are still relevant with everything changing so fast?
Well, the report talks a lot about the importance of upskilling and reskilling.
Okay.
It's not enough to just be good at what you do today. You need to always be learning new stuff and adapting to stay valuable as the workplace changes.
That makes sense, but where do we even start?
Right.
It's hard enough to keep up with my work now.
I know.
Let alone find time to learn a whole new set of skills.
Well, the good news is there are more resources than ever.
Okay.
We've got online courses, workshops, even free tutorials online. There's something for everyone. And don't forget, your employer might even be willing to pay for your training.
Oh, that's true.
Especially if they're serious about this whole AI thing.
So it's kind of a two-way street then.
Yeah.
Employees need to be proactive, but companies need to provide support and resources to make this transition work for everyone.
Absolutely. The report highlights that leadership needs to create opportunities for their people to develop these new skills. They call it on-the-job training and creating a culture of continuous learning.
So it's a partnership.
It is.
Both sides have to work together.
Yeah.
I'm also curious about what kinds of jobs is AI actually creating?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
It's not just about learning how to code or build robots. AI is creating jobs that need uniquely human skills.
Like what kind of skills?
Things like creativity, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, the ability to solve those really complex problems.
So we need to be even more human.
In a way, yeah. Think about it.
Okay.
If AI can take over those routine, boring tasks, that frees us up to focus on the things machines can't do.
That makes sense.
Things that need human judgment, empathy, collaboration.
So it's not about competing with AI.
Right.
It's about figuring out how to work with it.
Exactly.
To do the stuff we're already good at, but even better.
Exactly. The report even uses the term superagency.
Superagency.
To describe this. It's about using AI to, like, boost our own abilities.
It sounds empowering.
Yes.
But also kind of scary.
It can be.
What about, like, the downsides? Are there things we should be worried about with all this?
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
And the report doesn't ignore it.
Okay, good.
They say that AI does bring up concerns about ethical implications.
Okay.
Like jobs being lost in some sectors, and even the possibility of bias creeping into these AI systems.
It's not all sunshine and roses then.
No, it's not. We can't just blindly adopt this shiny new tech without thinking about the consequences.
So what do we do?
The report stresses how important it is to develop and use AI responsibly.
Okay.
This means focusing on transparency, accountability, and making sure that humans are always in control of the decisions that AI helps make.
It's not just about what AI can do then.
Right.
It's about how we use it.
It is.
And making sure it's used ethically.
Exactly.
So we've talked about a lot.
We have.
Upskilling, reskilling, this whole idea of superagency. The need for ethical AI development.
It's a lot.
It is a lot, but it's also really exciting.
It is exciting. We're living through a huge shift.
Yeah.
And the possibilities are pretty much endless.
But like we said, we need to be smart about it.
We do.
Embrace the good stuff, but be mindful of the risks.
Exactly.
That brings us to the final part of our deep dive into this McKinsey Superagency report.
Okay.
We're going to explore.
Welcome back. We've been talking all about AI changing the workplace, and it seems like there's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, definitely a lot of potential.
But before we finish up, I want to dig a little deeper into this idea of developing AI responsibly.
That's a really important point, and the report spends a lot of time on that.
Okay, good.
It's not enough to just talk about all the cool thing that AI can do.
Right.
We have to make sure it's being developed and used in a way that's good for everyone.
Okay, so where do we even start with that? What can companies actually do to make sure they're doing things the right way?
Well, the report suggests starting with some clear ethical guidelines and frameworks.
It's not enough to just say, oh yeah, we'll be careful. Companies need to lay down specific principles and have processes to guide how they're developing AI.
So it's kind of like a code of conduct for AI.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that.
And these guidelines should cover things like data privacy, how to make sure algorithms aren't biased, being transparent about how they're using AI, and who's actually responsible for the decisions that AI helps mark.
That makes a lot of sense. You got to have those rules in place from the very beginning.
You do.
But then how do you actually make sure AI is fair and unbiased? Like, in practice?
That's a tough one. One key thing they recommend is having diverse teams who are actually developing the AI.
Okay.
You can't create fair and unbiased tech if everyone building it comes from the same background.
Right, because different people bring different perspectives.
Exactly. Different perspectives lead to better solutions.
Okay, but is it enough to just have diversity within the tech teams? Or does it go beyond that?
It's definitely a good start, but the report suggests going even further.
Okay, how so?
They say it's good to get input from a lot of different people.
It's like who?
Ethicists, social scientists, even the general public.
Wow, so it's not just a tech problem then?
It's not. It's a societal one, and when it comes down to it, it's all about building trust.
Correct.
People need to feel confident that AI is being used to help them not take advantage of them.
That makes sense, and that means being transparent about how you're using AI and what data it's using to make decisions, right?
Absolutely. It's about opening up that black box and showing people what's going on inside.
Right, but that's not always easy, is it? AI can be really complex.
It can be, but it's so important if we want to create a future where we can really trust AI.
Well, thinking back to the beginning of this deep dive, it's amazing how much we've covered.
I know, right?
We compared AI to the Industrial Revolution, talked about upskilling and superagency, and we dug into this whole idea of developing AI responsibly. It feels like we're at a turning point.
It really does. It's a super exciting time.
Yeah, it is. What's the main thing you hope people take away from all of this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that we all have a part to play in shaping what AI looks like in the future. It's not just about the technology itself, it's about the choices we all make.
Choices as individuals, companies, as a whole society.
Exactly.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the McKinsey Superagency report.
It's been fun.
It has. If you're interested in learning more about all of this, we'll put a link to the full report in the show notes.
Definitely check it out. It's full of interesting stuff.
And to wrap things up, I want to leave you with a final thought.
Okay.
If AI is really all about helping us reach our full potential, what are you going to do with that power?
That's a great question for everyone to think about. Think big, be bold, and let's make sure AI helps us all thrive.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, keep exploring and keep learning.